State your name for the record, and you may begin when you're ready.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Anna Grappone. I live in Queens, New York. Too bad Valone had to leave. Okay.
I'm sorry. Start the clock again.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
My name is Anna Grappone. I live in Queens, Astoria, Queens. Unfortunately, Valone had to leave, but I just want to talk a little bit about myself. I smoked for 30 years. I grew up in a household full of smokers, my parents, my relatives. I picked up the habit when I was a teenager, and by the time I stopped smoking conventional cigarettes, I was up to about a pack and a half a day. Earlier in 2012, I was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma, which is a cancer of the lymph nodes. So naturally, you get that kind of news, you got to make changes in your life. So I totally abandoned conventional cigarettes, and then I started going for the electronic smoking devices such as the vaporizer. And I had spoken to my oncologist, telling him that I went from from regular cigarettes to electric cigarettes. And he said that the electronic smoking devices were fine, and he's an oncologist. So I went through 6 months of chemotherapy, and I also went for my routine PET scans and CAT scans. I started my chemotherapy around the beginning of August, and then around the beginning of April, I completed all the ABVD treatments that I had to deal with, and then I continued going for routine PET scans every 3 months. So right now, as we speak, my last PET scan and CAT scan were in early September, and so far I'm in remission. And I'm glad to be in remission, and then in the meantime, I totally abandoned cigarettes right around the time I was diagnosed, and I've been vaping religiously since then. Now, also, I am in favor of the Clean Indoor Act, but then you have people like me who like to go out and socialize and do so in restaurants and bars. I honestly do not want to be out on the street vaping my vaporizer and breathing in secondhand smoke from the smokers that are out there puffing away. I mean, I feel that their secondhand smoke is it's putting my health at risk. Okay? And as for the nicotine, and everybody's like gung-ho about nicotine, there are different levels of nicotine in the e-juices that you buy. So not only did I reform from smoking, I am also bringing down my levels of nicotine. I could even go down to a 0 nicotine level. Right now I'm at a 16. I went from 24 to 18 to 16. I could easily, at my own pace, bring myself down to a 0. That's all I have to say, but I'm opposed to the e-cigarette ban. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is William Friedman, and I'm a New York City carpenter. I'm a union carpenter, and I work all over the city in many different buildings. Fear, uncertainty, and confusion are not reasons to make a law. The Smoke-Free Indoor Air Act did not pass because of fear, uncertainty, and confusion. It passed because it met a burden of proof. If you ask yourself if this bill meets the same burden of proof, I think you will find it doesn't. Therefore, I see no choice but for you to reject this bill. It does not meet the same burden of proof that was established when the law was created. The experts have all admitted that they do not have any evidence to show that secondhand vapor is harmful in any way. The motivation for this seems to be based around the difficulties that it's going to create in policing the existing law. Well, my job is difficult too, but we don't make laws to make it easier. You just figure out how to deal with it, and you deal with it. So I'm sorry if the job has become a little bit more difficult to do, but that's just the price of progress. Aside from that stuff, I want to share a little personal information, and that is, in April of this year, I lost my mother to lung cancer and COPD. I've been using an electronic cigarette since January of 2009, and I recognized very quickly the health benefits that I was feeling, and I tried numerous times I tried to get my mother to convert to an electronic cigarette. I was never able to do that. The reason for that was because of the rhetoric that she hears in opposition to electronic cigarettes. This bill is being added into a public health law. There is no foundation in health. If it's added into the public health law, it's going to say to the public that it's not healthy. And this is what they're going to believe. If we want a law that's going to prohibit the use of electronic cigarettes to denormalize smoking, then we should be sitting here talking about a bill to prohibit electronic cigarettes to denormalize smoking, not a bill to prohibit electronic cigarettes under the guise of public health. That's demeaning to the entire public health system. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
My name is Aaron Fisher. I am a teacher, and I want to share a story. So when I was 13 years old, I started smoking for the same reason that every teenager starts smoking, primarily because they were told not to. And that's why every teenager picks up a cigarette. It's the same reason every teenager has ever picked up a cigarette. I smoked for about 20 years. During those 20 years, I must have quit dozens of times. I lost my grandmother to smoking-related illness. My father has COPD. About 8 months ago, I picked up a vaporizer because I could take it inside. I could use it inside of establishments. I'd be able to use it pretty much anywhere. And you know what? It didn't taste like a cigarette. And I wouldn't stink. I had no interest or no consideration and no intention of quitting smoking cigarettes. But after about a month, I realized I hadn't had a cigarette in 4 days. And I said to myself, well, maybe I don't need to have a cigarette. And a week went by, and I continued to use a vaporizer. And I was at a party, friends going away party, and we were outside, and everyone was having cigarettes, and I said, hey, can I have one of those? And I tried it, and it was the most disgusting thing I have ever put to my face. And I threw it away. It was terrible. And that was a little more than 6 months ago now. And that's where I'm at. And that's cigarettes for me. The fact that we have children in schools with e-cigarettes offends me, and I find it disgusting. I agree that e-cigarettes should be banned in and around school and child care facilities. I think that the administrators of that school that we heard about earlier should not have jobs because my taxes pay for them to work. And it disgusts me. As far as addressing the concerns of inside of a business, smoke stinks. These might smell for a few seconds, but a cigarette will cut straight through it. The additives in cigarettes increase the additivity. The EU studies that currently exist state that of the 600 additives, 100 of them directly affect, when burned, the additivity of nicotine. And many articles point out that you will not find anyone with enthusiasm for their gum or their patch the way that people feel about their vaporizers. And as far as that exploding battery goes, for anyone who cares and doesn't already know, yeah, it happened. But that's what happens when you plug a battery without a regulator into a charger that's 5 times more powerful than the battery can use.
Good afternoon. My name is Marianne Blankenship. I am a mother and a lifelong New York City resident. I was a heavy smoker for 47 years. After I first vaped an electronic cigarette, I quit smoking. Although so-called vapors like me are using this technique of nicotine delivery with positive, dramatic results, there exists a fear of vaping because it merely resembles cigarette smoking. I am here to extol the benefits of vaping and to express my desire to have an informed conversation so we can move forward with reasonable legislation. That can only happen if legislators accept that vaping is a new, innovative activity with a very real potential to eliminate cigarette smoking. Vaping was invented in 2003 by a Chinese pharmacist who was motivated by his father's death from lung cancer. We are in the 21st century and should embrace modern technology as it relates to e-cigarettes. It's troubling to me that New York, a world leader, is not responding to this technology with enthusiasm, but instead is seeking to penalize vapers based on unsubstantiated fears. The conversation should be about adopting a new mindset and vocabulary, much like London's Heathrow Airport did just last week when they opened a vaping zone in one of their departure areas. Vapers now have a choice to replace government-endorsed, ineffective methods of nicotine delivery: patches, gum, inhalers, nasal spray, lozenges, drugs with devastating side effects. I tried them all without success. It was an electronic cigarette that enabled me to quit smoking. Unless and until vaping is viewed as a different activity from smoking, people will continue to die from inhaling the thousands of carcinogens in cigarettes. Vaping should be recognized and regulated as a helpful aid for those who are addicted to nicotine. Despite vapers' testimony before the City Council on May 2nd of this year, some legislators still want to treat vaping as smoking. But evidence to date shows no harm to users or bystanders from vapor in e-cigarettes. Fear-based, premature legislation that forces millions of vapers into smoking areas to inhale secondhand smoke is harmful, unfair, and unethical. Smoking kills, and that is precisely why we vapers stop smoking. If you pass this legislation, you will be responsible for forcing me and many other non-smokers who vape to breathe deadly secondhand smoke. I therefore urge you to vote no on the e-cigarette usage ban because it is misguided and deceitful to claim that e-cigarette usage is smoking. After 47 years of smoking, I know what smoking is, and vaping is not smoking. Thank you for the opportunity to get this off my uncongested chest.
Thank you for your testimony, all of you. Okay, Cyrus, come on up. Andrew Martin, Christopher. I had a full panel, I thought. Christopher? He's here? Yeah. Okay. And John Urban? John is coming. Okay. On deck, Antoinette Lanza. Okay. Shaquana Blake. Blake, are you here? Okay. Benjamin Clark. Benjamin. Gabriel Sanchez. Roman Tiknavo? No. Okay. Philip Resinum, that's you? Okay. You guys are up next. State your name for the record. Begin when you're ready.
Hello, I'd like to thank the Council for recognizing me. Madam Chair, esteemed members of the Council, my name is Andrew Martin. I am 18 years old. I am an ex-smoker, and I use portable nicotine vaporizers to control my nicotine cravings. At age 16, despite prohibition, might add, I bought my first pack of cigarettes on the Upper East Side. I paid the prohibitive local taxes, and that pack cost me $13. I chose to continue to smoke for some time, and now 2 years later, I've chosen to quit. Like countless others, I found this to be a daunting task, but thanks to e-cigarettes, I'm successfully remaining smoke-free. I'd like to, I haven't had a puff of this in about 2 days, so I've been waiting for a while. What I just inhaled was vapor containing water, propylene glycol, glycerol, nicotine, and food-grade flavorings. Every one of those ingredients may be found in typical nicotine gum. What's more, all those ingredients are found in tobacco smoke from typical cigarettes, alongside dozens of known carcinogens, allergens, and irritants, as well as drugs other than nicotine which act synergistically to produce addiction. I'm going to skip this whole regulation thing because I'm on a time crunch. Unlike cigarettes, e-cigs produce no side stream emissions. They produce only mainstream smoke, and when the mainstream smoke is inhaled, minimal secondhand vapor is produced upon exhalation. Very importantly to me, though, they have been instrumental for me to stay smoke-free. E-cigarettes are orders of magnitude safer than tobacco. No matter what kind of fear, uncertainty, and doubt these radicals are going to try to convince the council of. They are not twice as dangerous as Russian roulette. They are not. There is no way that 1 pack a day is no better than 2 packs a day of cigarettes. These people would try to convince you to ban penicillin, insulin, indoor plumbing, and sunlight if they thought there was grant money in it. E-cigarettes do not harm the people surrounding the user. I beg of this body with great urgency to refrain from enacting another pointless, costly, ineffective overreach of the city government's enumerated powers. I'd like to take this time to just mention a few of the other chemicals found in cigarettes, which are not found in vaporizers ever. These include cotinine, anabatine, anabasine, harmine, harmaline, tetrahydroharmine. These are very powerful drugs. They also include nitrosonicotine, nitrosonornicotine, and other tobacco-specific nitrosamines, none of which are found in e-cigarettes. They also include polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, other potent carcinogens. There are dozens of known carcinogens in tobacco smoke. There are 0 in e-cigarettes, and I yield back the balance of my time. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and the committee. My name is Christopher Mikovits. I live in New York. I co-own and operate an electronic cigarette manufacturing. We manufacture parts and accessories for the electronic cigarette industry in New York and distribute them globally. This industry that we came into, I was a carpenter with a 25-year smoking addiction. I spent probably 10 years of that addiction trying to quit, and I finally gave up trying to quit. I had heard in the 80s about this mystery device called a smokeless cigarette, or, it didn't come out to light until 2009, personal vaporizer or an e-cig. I bought it, and it worked. It worked better than anything else I tried, but it broke, so I fixed it. It worked better after I fixed it. I noticed that when people got into this industry in the very beginning, the devices were very weak, and the liquids that were in them weren't very good. So everyone started taking them apart and rebuilding them. Essentially what happened is this industry was built by victims. The technology that we use in electronic cigarettes was all designed by victims of tobacco. We forgot about that. These weren't designed just to make millions of dollars off of. These weren't designed by the tobacco company. These weren't designed by a pharmaceutical company. These were designed by the victims of big pharmaceutical companies that had failed medications that didn't work for us. This is built by the failure. This is built by I'm sorry. We're the victims. And I started my company because I was a victim. And I'm building this company as a victim. And all of my customers are victims. And this law is doing nothing but calling it bad and putting it back to where the tobacco companies would love it to be. They want it to be called tobacco because then they're going to still make their money back. It wasn't until this past year that a tobacco company actually purchased an e-cig company. It wasn't until the companies like myself and the small mom and pop shops that started in 2009 and on started taking money away from the tobacco companies when they got involved. They wanted nothing to do with this. None of them. So I ask you please to think about this bill. It is taking it away from the people that created this industry and just putting it back in the hands of the people that created the problem in the beginning. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Cyrus Solomon, and I'm not as prepared as everyone else is. I notice that everyone has some sort of thing written down or typed out. Someone just convinced me to come here a few days ago, and as you can tell, I don't have a button-up shirt like the rest of them. I'm actually wearing my pajamas under this leather jacket, and I usually wake up at 12, but I woke up at 7 today because this is something that's very important to me. I've been smoking for 10 years. Was smoking for 10 years. I started when I was 15, and I kept on trying to quit, and it was something kind of oddly my mother actually didn't tell me to stop doing because she felt that whatever I needed to do to get over my problems, I'm an artist, whatever I needed to do to get over my problems, I should do. So she made me an ashtray and et cetera and et cetera. But my friends felt differently, and I actually really didn't care until someone bought me an electronic cigarette for my birthday last year. And I decided to try it out because, hey, why not? It was cheaper, it tasted better, I didn't smell bad, and I kept on using it, and eventually I liked it better than regular cigarettes. And I wanted to go back because, honestly, I felt like I looked pretty cool. And all of my peers in the art community thought I looked really dumb not smoking a cigarette. And when I tried to smoke a cigarette, I vomited. So there's that. I think that might be almost all I have to say, other than I can run 3 miles now without getting tired. I work out 5 days a week as opposed to once every 3 months. I've gained 40 pounds in muscle. I used to be 100 pounds, and now I'm 140 pounds. It's actually caused me to eat healthier as well, because now I feel good. And there was one other thing I wanted to mention. Oh yeah, I wish that those Enjoy guys and the Blue guys and the Logic guys were still here, because I felt like I was in a room full of celebrities. And they're not. So if anyone knows them, can you pass the word along that I'm a little starstruck because I see your ads all over New York City and it's kind of cool. All right, I think that's it.
Hi, my name is John Urban. I'll try to keep it brief. I'm not going to give you my sob story about how long I smoked or try to state a bunch of facts. What I would like to point out, though, is that we've been discussing this indoor ban, and I'd just like to know how exactly the council expects this to be enforced. I'm from Suffolk County, and there's a law that's been in place for a few years already, and every day when I go out, I see people using these in public places. It is not being enforced, because although you've seen some people in this room blowing out vapor, there are many of us that have not been exhaling any vapor. If I hold this up to my lips and take a puff for a few seconds, hold it in, when I exhale, nothing comes out. So if I were to be in a public restaurant and someone sees me with this up to my lips, am I going to get fines for that? Because I'm not necessarily using it. I may be chewing on it as if it was a pen or just nervous habit. That's really all I have to say. I would really like to know how this would be enforced. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony.
If I might briefly, I realize you're trying to speed through this, but I have plenty to say. I implore you to ask any questions you have.
Thank you. No. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Antoinette? Shakona? Gabriel? And Philip? This is a panel? Yeah. Okay. And coming up next, we have Laisel Gardner. I don't know if I said that right. Nicholas Cruz. Nicholas. Lisel, Gardner, Joe Landy, Evan Deutsch, Linnea Jacobson, Linnea? No? Yes? You're here? No? Okay. Why don't you join this panel? Come on up. Join this panel. I'm going to go through some names that I did not get a response from. Again, Linnea. Oh, that's you. Okay, so she belongs here. Okay. Roman, Ticonbo, no. Benjamin Clark. Okay. And then after this panel, we have Elaine Spinner. Elaine? Okay. So you're up next. If I have not called your name and you want to testify, that means we didn't get one of those slips of paper. So if you are here and want to testify, make sure you see the sergeant at the desk here so we don't miss you. Okay. Begin when you're ready.
Good afternoon, Madam Chairperson and City Council members. My name is Gabriel Sanchez, and I oppose the proposed indoor ban. The e-cigarette industry has saved my life. Ecigs assisted myself and those around me. Last month, I was gainfully employed part-time in the e-cig business at a time when I was one of 400,000 furloughed employees due to the government shutdown. Since my time working, I have witnessed numerous customers adopt the vaping experience. The expressions on consumers' faces when they find that there is an alternative to smoking is priceless, and it makes my job worthwhile. The product is customizable to include 0 milligrams of nicotine so that non-smokers who have never smoked before, such as my girlfriend, can taste and enjoy the vaping experience as well. Due to the nature of a small e-cigarette business that sells essentially a product and a service, customers currently sample the product at a store. Banning indoor use threatens this current business model. It jeopardizes small businesses and impedes a growing business sector. As a taxpayer and as someone who works for the taxpayer, it is outrageous and unacceptable to observe legitimate small businesses going under due to policy changes, which ultimately takes away tax dollar revenue that benefits our great country. On a personal level, on January 1st, 2011, my older brother, who is now 40 years old, quit smoking. The year before, his doctor told him that his lungs were in bad shape and instructed him to quit smoking. My brother took up vaping. When he did his yearly physical the next year, the doctor was stunned at his lung recovery. It turns out that the vapor acted similar to steam in a sauna. It cleaned his lungs of the tar, formaldehyde, urea, and fiberglass found in traditional cigarettes. The doctor told him simply, keep doing what you're doing. That's all I have. Thank you for listening.
Good afternoon. My name is Antoinette Lanza. I wanted to thank you for staying and hearing everybody speak. I appreciate that. I've lived in New York City for 15 years. I was also a smoker for over 15 years. I've watched New York City change. I was here when the original indoor smoking ban happened. I didn't quit then. I finally made the switch to e-cigs in 2009, and I vape only fruit flavors, which I enjoy, and I'm 33 years old. I've watched New York City become more environmentally friendly. Taxis are moving toward electric cars, city bikes have been added, and lots of other great things. Now I ask you to imagine for a moment New York City without cigarette butts, without foul wafts of smoke. Imagine a city clear of all of this, replaced by non-combustible vapor, similar to cars being replaced by the city bikes, and taxis being made to be electric. This industry is capable of achieving that. Statistically speaking, that could happen in the next decade. Why now is this innovative, revolutionary technology not being embraced by the city of New York? Banning out of fear and not facts, is that really in the public's best interest? Any study can be quoted to benefit either side. I encourage all the council members to read the complete studies that have been submitted. Did the CDC say e-cig use is increased in children? Yes, they did. But what of percentage of children who statistically start smoking or smoke real cigarettes already? Not to mention your new age regulation that's been passed or being passed. Those laws are in place to keep the children away from things. Parenting, mentoring, regulation to keep things out of children's hands. New York City should consider adopting a smoke-free, vapor-friendly environment for adult smokers instead of demonizing the idea. Education instead of demonization, and regulation. For the record, I'd also like to mention that the top 2 companies in the USA with over 50% of the market share, Enjoy and Logic, have no affiliation with Big Tobacco. Neither does CASA, an organization mentioned earlier to be backed by Big Tobacco. They don't even like to take money from non-Big Tobacco vendors. They're a consumer organization run by strictly consumers and users of the product. I would also love to know who is funding the spokespeople in favor of this ban. Big Pharmaceutical, perhaps? Chantix alone recently cited to have led to over 500 suicides. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry for Pfizer. And that's not even including the patch, the gums, and the lozenges, which also come in fruit flavors. Surprising that they would be in favor of this ban, isn't it? Working and taking up their market share with a product that's actually working and taking up their market share. I'll close with an Aflac duck. If it looks like a new innovation and acts like a life-changing technology, then that can change the world. Why not treat it like that? The cell phone was confusing first, too, for first-time users. iPhone was to the BlackBerry users. Society will adapt. There are ways to regulate this product without lumping it into a category that has been around for hundreds of years. Just like you would not regulate emissions of an electric car the same way you would a gasoline engine. They look exactly the same, but one has the opportunity to save the world. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Shaquana Blake, and I took my glasses off, 1, because when I can't see people, I'm a little less nervous. And 2, I just want you to get a good look, if you can, at my face. As you can see, there's some scars there. And that's actually from 17 years of smoking and being allergic to them, severely allergic to them, and not knowing, and just simply thinking, oh God, my face is falling off. So I'm here to oppose this legislation simply for the fact that I don't want to be pushed outside around smoke again. It took me 17 years of suffering and 2 years of fighting and trying really hard to stay away from cigarettes to get where I am, and I just don't want to have that victory taken away from me, and I'm sure other vapors like me and ex-smokers like me don't want to feel that way. That's all. Thank you.
My name is Philip Roseman. I'm the co-owner of Vape New York. I stand in my store every day and I hear the stories of hundreds of New Yorkers who were unsuccessful in getting away from cigarettes, most of them after multiple attempts. I've talked to office workers who work in skyscrapers who tell me their productivity has gotten much better now that they don't have to wait for elevators to get downstairs and outside, have their cigarette, and head back up to their offices. I've talked to police, fire, MTA workers, sanitation workers, all of which who need to share vehicles and don't want their vehicles to smell like smoke. I've also talked to new mothers who were smokers and after they had their babies didn't want to go back to smoking cigarettes and were looking for another option. Yes, we do sell flavored liquids in our store, not unlike Stoli Vanilla and Stoli Melon, but only to people who are over the age of 18. Our industry has been self-regulating from the very beginning and will continue to be so. And the devices that we sell will never be confused with a cigarette. They all look absolutely ridiculous is what it comes down to. I ask to reject this proposal on behalf of my customers who couldn't be here today and myself.
My name is Linnea Jacobson. I'm in opposition to the bill. I'm just going to jump right in. First, talking about how the e-cigarettes are an avenue to nicotine. Well, so are the patches, the gum, the nicotine inhaler. I mean, why is it okay to blow a nicotine inhaler in the air, but it's not okay to use an e-cigarette? And why is it okay to, you know, be addicted to the patches or the gum for years and years and years? I mean, how long has Obama been chewing that Nicorette gum? It's been like 6 years. He's still chewing it. Talking about them exploding, you know, cell phones and other lithium battery products have been known to explode occasionally. And speaking of science, cell phones might cause brain cancer. I mean, we just don't know yet. People haven't been using them long enough, so shouldn't we ban cell phones too? I mean, all the scientific evidence so far says they probably don't cause brain cancer, but so far all the evidence says e-cigarettes don't cause problems either, so shouldn't we ban both just to make sure? And speaking of the science, there's been a lot of talk about the tobacco-specific nitrosamines and the formaldehyde, you know, saying, well, we don't know what's in these things. We don't know if it's harmful. Well, actually, we do know what's in them, and we do know that it's not harmful. We know what's in them, and we know that it's not harmful in the trace amounts that, you know, a secondhand vapor is going to be breathing in. About kids using them, well, the thing is, it's illegal for kids to use them. I mean, this high school kid was in here talking about how kids are vaping in the school, and, you know, they don't obey a rule about vaping in the school, but they would obey a law about vaping it. Well, they're not supposed to be vaping to begin with. It's illegal for them to use those products. So if they're not obeying a law, why would they obey a law about using it in school when they're not obeying the law about using it at all? One last thing, and I would like to quote Dr. Michael Spiegel on this. He is actually an anti-tobacco advocate who supports e-cigarettes. And he says, the purpose of smoking bans is to protect non-smokers, not to prevent people from seeing smokers. The purpose of smoking bans and their only justification is to protect non-smokers from exposure to the significant hazards associated with tobacco smoke inhalation. If the purpose of these laws were to prevent youth from ever having to see a smoker, then there would be no reason not to simply ban smoking in public. If the City Council is concerned that youth might not understand what vapors are doing and may not understand that electronic cigarettes are not necessarily safe and should not be used by youth or non-smokers, then the Council should implement a public education campaign to achieve this end. This could be a great opportunity to teach kids how addictive smoking is by pointing out that many smokers can only quit if they use a product that simulates the exact behaviors of smoking. However, to respond to this issue by enacting a law that is completely unsupported by scientific evidence is not only unjustified, but it undermines the very practice of public health. We in public health pride ourselves in only intervening in personal freedoms when there is scientific justification that such intervention is necessary to respond to a substantial public health problem. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony, all of you. And you don't need to be nervous when you come here. This is the people's house. There are no enemies here. We may not always agree, but this is a safe place to be. I have some tricks I can show you after the hearing. I won't do it in public. Elaine. This is our last speaker. If there is anyone here who wishes to testify who I have not called, anyone? Okay, good. You? Do you want to? So you need to fill out a slip and give it to the sergeant quickly. Okay. Go ahead. Turn on the mic.
My name is Eileen Spinner. I'm a lawyer and I'm used to talking in court and I never need a microphone. I don't represent anybody. I am in favor of the ban. I had written a little essay for the American Cancer Society. They send me an email every day telling me what they're doing, and they asked us to write a little paragraph or essay about how smoking has affected our lives, especially teenage smoking. And I don't smoke, but I wrote them about my father. And I'm never nervous talking in court, but now I'm talking about something personal. My father was already smoking 2 packs a day for 43 years when I met him, and I met him when I was born. Possibly he was smoking 30 years. Because he started to smoke when he was 11, He smoked 2 packs of Winston a day. He came from immigrant parents, and kids smoked when they were little boys. You saw Newsies or whatever, little boys smoked. And he smoked 2 packs of cigarettes for years. And my sister and I used to try to get him to stop. We drew the red circles around the middle of the cigarettes because we hoped that he would only smoke half. That's what they told us to do on TV. And we begged him, we cajoled him. He just couldn't stop because he was addicted. And he used to send us to buy him cigarettes because kids could buy cigarettes when I was a kid. So I used to go to the drugstore or the candy store and say, 2 packs of Winston, please. I couldn't even reach the counter. And we had a cigarette machine in our lobby that my father sent us downstairs to buy the cigarettes. My father was a great guy, and he went with me to get my ears pierced and bought shoes with me. And he knew that I passed the bar exam because I went to see him in the hospital and I told him. But the day I got admitted, he had been dead 5 days already, because he died of lung cancer. And I just don't want to see that happen to anyone. And teenagers should not smoke. They should not have products like cigarettes in their hands and think it's cool, because it's really, really not cool. And it affects your children and your family. And it so changed my life. The day my father died is the worst day of my life. And I don't want it to happen to anyone else. Thank you.
Okay, Brian, right? Okay, so we're going to ask you to, after you testify, to clarify your address on the slip, okay? Thank you. Okay, and state your name for the record because I can't make out your last name.
So my name is Brian Ellicott. I'm a lifelong New Yorker. I'm 24 years old, born and raised in Staten Island, and right now I live on the Lower East Side. I am transgender, so I already constrict my breathing by wearing a chest binder. So when I started transitioning, I gave up smoking conventional cigarettes and started vaping. The same things that are in conventional cigarettes are the same things that caused my dad to get non-Hodgkin's lymphoma from being a first responder during 9/11. 2007, my dad passed away from non-Hodgkin's lymphoma as a result of 9/11. I was 18 when my dad passed away. I was 16 when I started smoking. And 2 years ago, when I started transitioning, I gave up smoking to try and help myself breathe a little better while still having to deal with smoking and dealing with anxiety, depression, society going against me. All the things that teenagers do when they start smoking because the world sucks and it sucks around us, so we start smoking. Our parents tell us not to do it. We do it anyway. Vaping has been a way for me to still be able to enjoy smoke. I like the idea of looking at the smoke. I enjoy the idea of the taste of a vapor opposed to a cigarette. I'm 24 years old now. If I want to smoke something that tastes like strawberry shortcake, I should be able to. I'm an adult. I like it. I'm opposed to kids smoking. I shouldn't have been smoking. I did it because I thought I was cool and I shouldn't have been doing it. But now as an adult, I should not be told what I can and can't do. So I'm against the proposed legislation, and I thank you for this last-minute chance.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. With that, if there's no one else here that wants to testify, I will adjourn the hearing. Thank you all for hanging out all these hours and for your patience to give us your words.